at the Guidance Department of the Internal Assessment Group, and the purpose of our department is to organize hands-on sessions, and we have previously conducted successful workshops on suturing, IV cannulation, examinations, orthopedic skills, and we have also organized multiple online sessions, including the MASH panel. Today we're bringing to you part 2 of the MASH panel. And it's such an honor for me to share that 49 graduates of SMC have matched into multiple specialties this year, including animal medicine and family medicine. Today we have 3 of them here with us. Let me just give you a quick overview of the objectives of this session. So this session is going to address how are you going to secure meaningful electives, and about personal statement, which is a very important component of your profile. How are you going to use signals, which is again very important, and red flags for scores or no electives, and how to address them to make your profile all-rounded, and interviews. So before we begin off, let me just give you a quick disclaimer that the purpose of this session is to establish a practical strategy. We do not want you to copy the exact journeys of the speakers. We want you to extract the main points and engineer them into your journey while staying true to yourself. We're also going to be addressing some common mistakes that you should avoid, and weak points how to address them with honesty and clarity. And we want you guys to note what works, see through patterns, and include them in your journey. So beginning off with Dr. Hamza, who is going to be addressing the ERAS application and low scores. He has matched into internal medicine at North Mississippi Meal Center. Over to you, Dr. Hamza.
So the ERAS application, I would say, is like one of the most important, it's the most important thing in that whole match process, because it is about 80% of the work, right? And for me personally, I regret not starting working on it earlier. Obviously, like during our time, the ERAS thing did start a little late because they were switching over to Intel. But usually the application time starts around June, like mid-June, early June, something like that. So the way that works is you have to buy the token from ECSMG. You have to buy an ERAS token, and then you have to make an AMC account. And then on that, you have to fill out your ERAS CV, which is mentioned on the thing. So I have a couple of screenshots. I fixed the thing. Can I share my screen? I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like first, and then we can talk about what you need to be doing. Okay. So I just took a few screenshots of my CV. It's not my whole CV, but I just wanted to give you guys a general idea. So obviously this is your basic like biodata stuff on the top. And then they have like this thing called honors and awards. Postgraduate training. Now, if you've done residency or something, or house job does not count as postgraduate training. Okay, so it's like residency, fellowship, that stuff counts as postgraduate training. So if you have that, you can put that in. And so then they had, in the beginning, they had like this thing called honors and awards, right? Now, the whole thing with any CV you ever make is you have to dress up whatever you did as nicely as you possibly can, right? And for me personally, that was like an issue because I have like severe imposter syndrome when it comes to like medicine, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, where you just feel like, oh, मैं अपनी चीज को बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ा चढ़ा के दिखा रहा हूँ, even though इतनी अच्छी नहीं लगती. But one thing that like my wife taught me throughout this whole process was that like you have to make it look nice, right? So like honors and awards, you can put in like this in our ward books, जो scores आते हैं like more than 7. So you also have MSPE. That's something we're going to talk about later. So usme they give you grades for everything. So usme, they mention like if it's excellent or stuff like that. So you can put that in your honors and awards. And if you have like a gold medal and stuff, you can put that in there as well.
I guess not if you have distinctions, but
if you don't have distinctions, you can just make your regular old, house, like what's it called? The rotations, like your
grades and stuff.
Your grades. You can make it look nice.
Yeah.
You can just make yourself
look. It's not necessary that you have distinctions or like amazing grades throughout med school, but whatever you have, what little you have, you can like plate it in a way that it looks presentable to the other person.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Also, honors and awards में make sure कि आप बहुत पुरानी बातें नहीं कर रहे हो, आप अपने high school की बातें नहीं कर रहे हो, आप जो है अपने middle school की बातें नहीं कर रहे हो.
Yeah. So like this needs to be like a little bit more up to date, type of stuff. And that kind of goes for the most of the CV. Anything more than like, like 7-8 years ago, it's a little too old, because that goes into like high school territory, unless it's like something that was very interesting. Like, if you did something like very cool or something, then yeah, sure. But if it's, a volunteer experience from 7 years ago, probably not something you should be putting in your CV, just saying. Yeah, and then the CV also has a part for hobbies and interests, right? So, I mean, if you guys want to read, you can read mine. But yeah, so I mean, the thing is, one thing जो मैंने बहुत देखा है, like my seniors, everyone I talked to while I was going through the process, so everyone talks about कि oh score बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए, oh ये बहुत अच्छा research होनी चाहिए, सब कुछ होना चाहिए. But you also need to be like a well-rounded human being. So this is something that I feel like you should think about from the beginning. I know people put it towards the end, कि oh मैं कर लेंगे, and then you just don't know what to put, and then people end up putting stuff like, oh, I like dancing, I like cooking, which is fine. Like, if that's your hobby, that's amazing.
I put
No, she put that, but like, it was just like a very like last minute thought. So put a little bit more thought into this, because in my interviews, this stuff was asked about. Like, I only had two, but this stuff was definitely talked about. They care about hobbies and interests because they want to see who you are as a human being outside of just your objective metrics, right? Right. And then, so now there's this thing in the CV called experiences, right? So again, during our time, we got the advice that, oh, it should be all like medical related, which is like advice initially.
Total of 10 experiences.
Yeah, so there's 10 total experiences. And everyone was like, oh, it should be all medical. But then later on, everyone decided it should be a little bit a mix of everything. So you should definitely have like medical stuff in there, like especially rotations, right? This is where you can talk about your US rotations, and you should talk about your US rotations. So the split that people usually do is like, half of it is like rotations and like house job and stuff like that. And then half of it is like, extracurricular stuff or like personal stuff like that. So you can put in there. So like, I was a master trainer with Shine Humanity, helping babies survive or helping babies breathe. I'm pretty sure some of you are part of that. So I put that as my thing because Shine Humanity is a US based NGO. So I thought it would be, good for my CV. And I also did have an LOR from Dr. Nahmana, cause she is I think she's a pediatrician in the US. So yeah, so, like, now, there's two ways of going about filling your CV experiences. So there is a 300-word character limit, right? So you have to be very intentional about every letter you use because even the spaces and full stops count as characters, right? So you need to be very mindful. Like, this is something that I struggled with a lot when I didn't know this was a thing. Like, I knew that every word is important, but it's literally every letter, every space is important. So that's something you guys need to look at, and you have to put in like when you started, when you ended, and stuff like that. And then out of those 10 experiences, to narrow it down a bit more, they give you like 3 most meaningful experiences, right? So, and then in the most meaningful category, you kind of have to add like, oh, why did this experience mean a lot to me? Like for me personally, I loved HBS because I actually learned a lot of like neonatal resuscitation. It was a lot of fun actually going and teaching like nurses and midwives and stuff. So like that actually meant a lot to me that like, something I was doing could make a direct difference to like someone's life, So yeah, so this is like the experiences portion of the CV. Again, I was head of studios as well. So I was just like showing stuff like not necessarily related to medicine, not necessarily like volunteering. This is just something I was personally interested in. I love photography. So I was the head of studios. I put that in there. You don't necessarily need to be the head to put it in there. You can be like a member and just talk about it. But then again, you have to dress up everything very nicely and put a nice bow on it. And, stuff with the comic could be it. So that, which is difficult, and that takes a lot of time. And yeah, and then we mentioned our, what's it called? Our rotations, the stuff we did on our rotations and stuff. Because obviously when they will read your CV, and so this is the only time you can tell them about the rotations you did, what you did at your rotations, what you're capable of, that type of stuff. Okay, this is technically not part of the ERAS CV, but I just kind of wanted to touch on this as well. This is part of the whole ERAS application, in which like the CV is like a part of it, is your geographical preferences. Because I personally believe this made a big difference in both of our like applications. We made a very specific preference to like these areas, East, South, Central, East, North, Central. Like we had good reason. This is not actually the one I submitted, like these answers, like these reasonings. so they might be a little wrong here. But yeah, this is something I feel like you should, everyone should focus on in the CV. So now I'm going to talk about like just broadly the CV. I am rambling a little bit, I realize. But okay, so the CV, like these are all the intricacies, but generally speaking, I think the way, oh wait, sorry, I forgot one last thing. So you have the option of putting an impactful experience in your CV. Right now, this is separate from the 10 experiences you have and the, the 3 meaningful experiences. Impactful experience is something that might have happened in your life that you think might help your cause, really. But I would say, like, don't just fill this for the sake of filling it, because if it comes off as disingenuous, then that's not good for you. But if you can make it, this is essentially the overview of the entire CV is just all of this. So yeah. So the CV, what I would recommend, and everything, including the personal statement, start as early as you can, because like narrowing down the stuff you did to just 300 characters is very difficult. Like
each experience is going to be 300 characters.
Yeah.
So
Each
like,
experience.
You have a total of 10 experiences, and like each one of them is going to be 300 characters, right?
Yeah.
So just narrowing everything down to that is like very hard, and not just that, finalizing which experiences you want to include in your CV, because you probably have you must have done like 10,000 things, but you cannot write about those 10,000 things. So you have to pick out the most important experiences that kind of shape the person, they kind of shape your personality and the person that you are.
And also, you should be able to defend every single word you've written here, because again, in one of my interviews, the PD literally just opened my CV and then he looked at me, and each point that I mentioned, he asked me specifics about each thing. Now, that's not the case for every interview, but people do that. So it's not like I say, don't write stuff here that you can't necessarily defend.
Yeah,
right?
Because especially when you are put on the spot now during interviews, it's very hard to defend stuff that you haven't done.
Yeah.
And you are talking about it like you have done it, or that's your experience. If your experience use na karo, use experiences that are important to you or things that have happened to you, because then वो आपको बहुत passively you can talk about them. आपको कोशिश नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. You wouldn't have to pretend.
Yeah, one advice that I always give is lie. If you want to lie very close to the truth. Don't make up something. You get what I mean? And that's not necessarily lying, because you're just dressing up something, like making it look nice. Like, oh, JPMC is like this big hospital, like 1,600 beds or something like that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily it just makes it look nice.
It is the truth.
It's the truth, but it's
just present your truth in a way that the other person likes it, or you are a presentable person. अब आप CV जब बना रहे हो, make sure I have seen CVs जहाँ पे spacing का मसला होता है, जैसे एक word और 2 word के बीच में full stop का मसला है, punctuation का मसला है. Don't do that. This is who you are. They're not meeting you. This is the first thing that they're gonna see, and they will this is gonna basically they will make up their mind based on what you are putting in your CV. If they don't like you, अगर तुम्हारे full stop और next word के बीच में space नहीं है, or तुम directly start कर रहे हो, they're not gonna I wouldn't like that person, because I'd be like, okay, they had one thing to do and they didn't do it right.
But yeah. So yeah, overall, I think CV is just something you have to, again, this is something personally, I struggle with the fact that I had to scrunch down everything, figure out what is important. I think that's very difficult. Actually, what really helped me was I didn't even remember half the stuff I did throughout medical school. So she had to give me a list, okay, तुमने ये किया है, and तुम इसके बारे में लिखो. So yeah, that. So I think as far as this CV, this is all the information that I think is important for now. You guys will obviously ask questions. You can answer them later.
And the 3 most important experiences you have to out of the 10 experiences that you write about. So उसमें वो हो गया.
Yeah, I should know that.
Okay.
But yeah. And as far as low scores, okay, so the reason my thing mentions low scores is because I had a really low step 2 score. I had a 226, right? Which is genuinely not a good score, right? But I think it should give people hope to mera match ho gaya. So the thing is, when you don't have a score, there's a lot of extra stuff that you kind of need to do to be able to match, right? You need to bolster your research if you can. Now the issue is a lot of us do step 2 right before applying, somewhere around applying. So doing research at that point becomes a little difficult. But that's something you have to do. You have to bolster everything, because the thing is, you're applying to one program, but there's also 3,000 to 4,000 other people applying to that exact same program. And a lot of people will have the exact same CV. So like that distinguishes you from her, like distinguishes me from her is in my benefit, which is why I mentioned the geographical preference. A lot of people are blank. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think the strategy should be wherever you're planning on signaling or whatever, that's where your geographical preference is. That's my personal opinion. But then again, that applies to the whole. You should stuff in that differentiates you from someone else.
Also, geographical preferences go back to navigation scheme, like regions that you have rotated in. For example, rotated in if you have rotated in Mississippi, so like make sure that the Mississippi region is a part of your geographical preference, because that's going to help you a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, just be specific and mindful of that. But yeah, as far as low scores, I personally think कि मेरा match इसलिए हुआ है कि I'm a personality hire. I feel like it. Like I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I feel like during my rotation at the hospital, I got along really well with the entire residents, like all the residents. I got along with them really well. I used to go play pickleball with them. I used to play a lot of table tennis with them. Now, a lot of this just kind of comes down to like kismat. It's like, Fatima, you're not a personality hire. I'm sorry. Like you were like,
interviews, you will realize I am also a personality hire.
Your CV, I'm pretty sure this is a lot better than mine. But yeah, so, honestly, like I wouldn't say Maheen is a personality. If the residents don't remember you, and if they did not vibe with you, that really ruins your chances, right? But that being said, don't overdo it. A lot of Pakistanis that I saw like during my rotations, it was very obvious they were just doing it for the sake of doing it, just to like get in people's good graces. वो सबको पता चल रहा है, right? Like I'm sorry, like I don't know, I don't have a nice way of saying it, but a lot of like the residents, they did mention it, like there's a lot of like brown nosing, a lot of like, जो उनको नहीं पसंद आती, especially like white people, in my personal opinion, they don't like that at all. Like हमारा culture थोड़ा सा ऐसा है कि oh sir, you are the best, you are the amazingest, they love that. वहाँ पे इतना नहीं है, the more you do it, the less they kind of like it. So I do think that is something you should definitely keep in mind. Don't try to just be, but find that balance, what works for you. One thing that I think really worked for us is during our rotation, we asked the PD to, if we could do like a presentation. And, to this day, like a lot of residents that we didn't meet during our, didn't properly meet during our rotations, they knew us because they remembered like the presentation, because it was like a little entertaining and it was like, they liked it. So, stuff like that. You can, but then again, that depends on,
the program.
Yeah, the program stuff.
How involved the PD is.
Yeah. But definitely, yeah, that's something you should focus on. And also, this goes without saying, but like knowing people and connections is like amazing. Like it's the best thing you can do. So, reach out to people early. You will be a little annoying, for people. Like it's just a thing, but like you kind of just have to like push through it. Like I personally PHH ने एक session किया था like 3 years ago. उसमें एक हमारी like alumni आई थी, match, and I reached out to her like during the match side, like recommending us to a program. We didn't match there, but it was like a big thing. So like reach out to alumni. Thankfully, thanks to Fatima, we made this whole collage with everyone. So now more of the people who've matched and everything. So, reach out, but don't be annoying and don't be like, in a sense, like, don't just be like, oh, recommend me, give them like a reason to recommend. Like, just like, don't, because I met someone who I don't know them at all. And they just went like, oh yeah, could you recommend us this year? I was like, मुझे उसका नाम नहीं पता, right? So like, इतना ना करो. But obviously you will be reaching out to people who don't know you. So like maybe like introduce yourself a little bit, थोड़ा सा अपने बारे में बताओ, and then be like, oh, but definitely reach out to alumni, reach out to anyone देखो, throughout the match process, ego नहीं हो सकता. Forget your ego at the door, especially with a low score. Especially with a low score, the ego to like छोड़ ही दो ना, वरना फिर match नहीं होगा. So because anyone and like you will not know who can help you. like some random connections aa jati hain kahin se tere mere hoke, which are, nice and helpful. So anyways, I don't know if that was super helpful, but that was very long. I think I should probably end it here. If you guys have any questions, we'll end it or and stuff like that. But yeah.
That was very helpful, Dr. Hamza. Thank you so much.
No worries.
All right, so next up is Dr. Fatima, who has matched into family medicine at UAMS Regional Campuses West. She's going to be discussing electives and red flags and interviews.
Hello. Assalamualaikum. So I'm going to talk about USC, which stands for US Clinical Experience. And I know Hamza covered a bit of it because he calls himself the personality hire, which is what I'm about to tell you is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. And I will explain why. So here's the thing. When you do US clinical experience, it's done for two reasons. One, do you understand that the US, the very little you can get sued at any corner. That this person's been in a US hospital, do they understand things there? Here's the thing. You need to, number one is that I feel when it comes to clinical experience, I know the juniors, I know how people act in Pakistan when it comes to wards, when it comes to rotations, and I need to tell you, you have to absolutely abandon that entire personality at home before you walk into the US. Unfortunately, it's the truth. Do not walk in here like this is your home institute, because I've worked with enough students to know that this is very sound advice right now. Normally, I would tell people, whatever good you did back home, definitely make sure to bring it here because you are a representative of your country. Now they want to see our Pakistani graduates as competitive as, Eastern European ones, Britishers, Indians. But I would just say, please just abandon everything you learned at home because I don't trust any of you. And there's a reason for that. It's not because I think everybody in Pakistan is bad, but it's because I've worked with some of you all, and I know even during the match process when people were talking about interviews, which I will get into a little while later because this connects to that, is that most of you you see it the wrong way. It's not that you're inherently bad, it's just that you make such poor choices. I have to tell all of you, please, जो भी घर पे कर रहे थे वो यहाँ मत करना. ठीक है? And I'll tell you why. So for example, let's start from the top. Number one, always show up on time. Show up half an hour early. America is a very corporate capitalist country. They want people to show up early. And if you can't for some reason, like for example, I couldn't in one of my rotations, and I made that very clear. I told them that, listen, I have a 1.5-hour commute with the DC Metro, and I am completely dependent on public transport while I'm in this country. I do not have a car. So they said, okay, yes, we cut you some slack for that. And I made it very clear, I cannot come here for the 8 a.m. appointment, but I will be here for the 8:15 and the 8:30 because that's the earliest the metro can get to the station. And they said, okay, even though one of the days I was the only one in clinic and I had to start everything from scratch because the assistants weren't there, I told them, look, I will do whatever I can to get here at 8 a.m., but I still can make no promises. So I did come in 5 minutes after the first patient was already in, but the rest of the day went well and everybody was very happy. They were like, you were really helpful today. So things will happen, but you have to be very clear. Make it known. Don't leave things up to chance. अच्छा नहीं बताया, चल गया, कोई बात नहीं, कुछ नहीं कहा किसी ने. They are noting it. They're just not saying anything. You have to be open. You have to communicate, and you have to communicate in a way they understand. And for this, I say English अच्छी आनी चाहिए. I'm sorry, that goes without saying, but you have to know proper English and the way you speak. It's not about speaking in the thickest American accent or talking like some country guy from southern Alabama. That's not necessary. You don't have to change your accent or the way you speak, but you have to know how to correctly use the words in the right settings. And this can be a struggle, even for somebody like me who went to a very, very snobby-ass, posh, elite private school education all my life. But even then, there are differences because the English we learn in Pakistan is actually more UK based, descended from a colonial era, whereas the US has tried everything in its power to completely break off from its colonial roots and speak in a language that's completely different from what the Britishers speak. So there are inconsistencies. Like, for example, if this one guy, अब मैंने उसको बहुत डांटा था, हमारी rotation में था, and he said something like, oh, you know, I was just fooling around. मैंने कहा, man, don't say that, because that's used in a sexual tense in the US. Don't say that. He's like, no, you know it means something else. I was like, no, don't use that phrase loosely. So things, tiny things like this, you need to be very careful with the words you're using, and the words are very, very, very carefully chosen. When you enter the match process, you will realize that everything from the ERAS CV to every little opening paragraph and statement you give to people who are your contacts or your attendings, every little short paragraph, short communication, even text messages. The words are very carefully chosen. The tone, the everything, it's so carefully chosen. Even other applicants, when you meet them, they're going to choose their words very carefully when they speak to you, because it's like this constant state of for like 9 to 8 months where you are putting on a show and everybody's watching. And it's true, everybody is watching. So you need to speak properly, you need to learn proper English. Couple of other examples are like, when I see in hospitals, sometimes people say things like, there are no any symptoms, there's no such thing as no any symptoms or no any history of migraine. Don't say that. Nobody in the US talks like that. Please don't say that. And things like when you're presenting a history, बहुत आप लोगों को सिखाया जाता है अपने कंट्री में हिस्ट्री कैसे लेनी है. प्लीज यूएस आके वो हिस्ट्री ले लिया करो and present it properly. Like the way Hamza said, that the reason he matched is because of his amazing presentation skills. Now, you don't have to be Hamza to get that match. You have to be you, but you have to do it. You have to do it to perfection. You owe that to yourself. You spend a lot of money and effort coming here. थोड़ी that personality कर लो. And you can't change who you are. You can't hide your personality. You can't personality transplant in the next 2 months. But you can, like he said, conceal it. You can, manufacture a certain identity. There are a lot of horrible people who match. I know them personally. And they made sure that the interviewer thought, this is the person I want to hire. So that's one of the main things about USC. Whatever you do, everything is being watched. You're being held under a microscope. I know this sounds very pressurizing, but also try to have fun with it. Like if you are too stiff and too rigid, that also comes across. You have to be a little relaxed. You have to make a few jokes, but if you don't know your target audience, don't make jokes. They could land the wrong way. Like you could offend somebody. Okay, so this is just a basic overview. I know I got into a lot of details, but it matters because I know a lot of people who and they're very confused. And you will be very confused, and that's okay. Just own the confusion. Okay. So understanding EMR team communication. So this is the first. EMRs over there are a little different, but if you have worked in any hospital in Pakistan that has somewhat of a, EMR, if you worked at AQ, NIC really has one, Indus, or consider. I think even Trauma Center Civil has some sort of. Yes, I do know how to work a functioning computer with patient histories and how to log in, log out. ठीक है, इतना तो आता है ना, बाकी वो सिखा देंगे. And just know how to do it. Like just request a resident, like, hey, can I just see the EMR? I just want to see it. Just show me a version of it. There are even some video on YouTube, and some people even get sent like rotation packets where there are these Google Drive and Docs which can learn EMR key screenshot. You can go to Reddit and maybe somebody hands them to you secretly, discreetly. You can just see Epic and how to use it. But most of it, you're going to learn in residence. Just know that you know how to use an EMR. And team communication. So when you go to the US, there's not just you, your doctors, residents, attending, and maybe a bunch of nurses. It's a lot more diverse than that. There are NPs, there are PAs, there's a coordinator, there's a random manager, there's a case manager, there's a social worker, there's a pharmacist who attends rounds, there's physiotherapy, there's ICT, there's rehab, there's 50,000 किस्म के लोग जिनके नाम भी नहीं आते एंड मुझे रिसेंटली पता चला कि ये पाकिस्तानी हॉस्पिटल्स में भी इतने लोग होते हैं बस हमें नजर नहीं आते and the thing is that you need to communicate with everybody and the first thing is to know who they are. Like for example, this one person was in rounds and she used to walk around with a computer all the time. I was like, why is one person with a computer all the time? Later I found out that the pharmacist attend rounds with you and they have a computer in their hands all the time because they're reviewing all the medications. So these are called interdisciplinary rounds. And I was about to ask her about this patient who was on way too many medications and was agitated and delirious. Auntie bilkul out ho rahi thi. So I was like, "Ye kaun hai? Main isse kaise puchun?" Then I had to ask somebody. I had to wait actually until we went to another patient, and then somewhere on the line I heard a few conversations. I eavesdropped a couple of people. I realized, "Acha, ye pharmacist hai." So by like the 8th patient in rounds, I was like, "Okay, she's the pharmacist. ठीक है, समझ में आया." That's what it means when it comes to team communication. You need to know there are so many different people. Like there's a PA. I had to work with a PA for a good part of my rotation, at least 2 months. And she took me to rounds. She took me to patients. She said you can absolutely examine patient and history and jo karna hai karo. Because she was like, I'm not a doctor, but like you and I do whatever hum kar sakte hain because we are reflections, which I will get to later, is disciplinary team communication. You've learned how to discuss things with more than just doctors. There are going to be a lot of people to talk to when you're a resident or a trainee. You don't just speak to doctors all day. You speak to nurses, PAs, social workers, and the like. So this is day-to-day hospital structure. कि सुबह round होता है. How do rounds happen? They happen differently in every hospital, and they have different names for it. मुझे अभी नाम नहीं याद आ रहा. But what happened was कि when I was in Texas, so we started rounding and we started from one floor and we went to all the patient rooms, and then after we were done with the patient rooms, the floor had a new station sort of area. इसमें counter सा होता था and वहाँ पे nurses बैठी होती थी, and then around 11 a.m. 12 p.m. सारी nurses अपने अपने counters पे जमा हो जाती थी. And then when they collected there, the attendings came one by one, or her attending would present their own patients. Okay, patient in 4, we're going to do this, and then there would be a computer and then a screen on the wall, and then they would like enter round orders. So the rounds were with nurses, not interns or residents, because the residents are following the attending everywhere. वो तो तवाफ कर रहे हैं पूरे hospital में. The rounds जहाँ पे खड़े होके पूरे orders दे रहे हैं वो nursing stations पे होते थे mainly. So in 1 or 2 cases I requested if I could like do it as well, but like one of my attending was like, no, I think it's better I speak to the nurses, you stick to the patients. And then एक आध जगह मैंने counsel भी किया था एक patient को because वो cardiology case था, and then I had a little cardiology experience, so I would really take charge in that. So this is one hospital's culture. A different hospital do it differently. So you can write this on your CV. You'll be like, I learned how such rounds work, how they work and whatnot. And make friends with the nurses. I saw this one nurse because she would always have this badge. I love looking at people's badges on their, uniforms. Like this is just about attention to detail. Notice everything. So, it was about, what did it say? Oh, Purple Heart. So I was like, okay, are you an army? And she's like, yes, I'm a huge army. And then we just vibed about K-pop for a bit. So, like I said, be a human being in your rotations. Be disgusting. Most nurses have very traditional, very conventional interests. Talk about Korean music, talk about F1, talk about One Direction, talk about, things like, what else? Everybody's gonna have us waqt labubu craze was. Everybody had a labubu hanging from their Stanley. So ask them, where did you get your labubu? And then they will love to tell you about their labubus and then for my Florida rotation, tab tak I had gotten my nails done. So I had like one of those acrylic nail manicures. Every nurse in the Florida hospital had one of those manicures, and then just vibe with them about their manicures. Okay, where did you get yours done? Oh, what do you like better? Oh, your nails are so nice. Be a human being. Be a human being. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're looking for. Strong LORs. So I don't know what my LORs looked like because I never saw them. I never wrote mine. मेरे सारे attendings ने खुद लिखे थे. But here's one thing. I do have these screenshots and मैंने काफी गौर से बता के रखे हुए. Apna did this session on what a strong LOR looks like, and they presented few examples of it. और मैंने उनके screenshots ले लिए थे. और फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने कुछ कोर्स भी करवाया था जो मुझसे लॉगिन नहीं हुआ था. But Apna, I think it was Neo. Apna Neo is a branch of larger Apna. It's Neo is like East Ohio Valley, Nebraska, Eastern Belt and Ohio, वो वाले area, I think. I'm not sure. So उन्होंने एक किया था and it was really good, and I took those screenshots and I sent them to all of my attendees. They were like, do you have anything that you, because एक को ना हमें एक दिन skip करना पड़ा था रोटेशन का. हमने कहा था हम लेट आएंगे, हमें वो वेबिनार अटेंड करना है. तो फिर उन्हें हमारे डॉक्टर ने पूछा था कि okay, what was in that, and I was like, they were telling us how to write good LORs. He's like, please send me that, मैं भी लिखूंगा. And this is a white guy, by the way. He was not Pakistani, he was not Desi. So I said, yes, I will send it to you. तो फिर वो पूरी उन्होंने कहा था कि I want you to write like a reflections, and वो भी अपना ने दिखाया था कि what they recommended students to do was to write this entire email or document. Always send a document. Don't send random emails with just text in them. Send a document. If an email is too long, turn it into a document. ठीक है? तो एक document बनाओ, reflections of your rotation. And it was just the student's version of how his rotation went. And they showed that. They're like, I asked my student to send reflections because I wanted to see what he was learning from the rotation. He had 2-3 paragraphs discussing something with a patient and guiding them and giving them like end of life counseling and giving them hope, and these sort of tiny things that you can do, because you won't be allowed to touch patients, you won't be allowed to handle their care. If you are doing an observership, it's not allowed to do those things. But if you are doing a clinical elective, then I would heavily recommend getting to the EMR, getting to the treatment options, घुस जाओ मरीजों के लिए, call people up in the hospital, place orders, be a little, ज़्यादा involved when you are doing a clinical elective, because at that point you have malpractice insurance, you have liability insurance, and so you're not a liability anymore. But as an observer, you are a liability. Be careful, because कुछ गलत हो गया तो आपको तो कुछ नहीं होएगा, उनको बहुत बड़े lawsuits देखने पड़ जाएंगे. ठीक है? And then that turns into a big mess. So what you need to do is always ask. I would say जितने सवाल पूछोगे ना उतना अच्छा रहेगा. Now, I personally disliked being in a hospital, and I wasn't a student. I was 1.5 years, no, almost 2 years out of med school. I had done an entire house job. I had done work in ATU and NIC, in बड़े hospitals में मैं काम करती थी. I've seen a lot. I've seen different types of work ethics, different types of work cultures, working environments. I knew who I was, and वही बात है कि Hamza talked about brown nosing. He's right. I wasn't really interested in brown nosing. I was interested in being like too extra. I knew what I wanted to do in a particular hospital, and I wanted to do it a certain way. And that was just a slight of maturity that after doing so many rotations, when you're young, when you're in third year, you feel like doing everything. But as you get older, you start to conserve energy. So I did conserve energy in certain things in the hospital. Like, for example, there were things I said, okay, I really am grateful for this opportunity, but I'm more interested if I could follow a particular patient in this regard, because I think that's something I haven't really have given a chance to explore yet, not even in my home country, and I would like to learn that before I leave. And just communicate that this is something you're interested in. You don't have to be obnoxious about it. You don't have to sound ungrateful. It's not ungrateful to exercise a boundary. It's not ungrateful to say that, this is something I'm truly passionate about. They might even appreciate that you're being candid and honest, that, listen, I'm very excited that this hospital has an ED fellowship, and I wanted to know if it was possible if I could go to the ER for a short period of time just to see. And like, for example, when I was in Florida, I was being bounced around from attending to attending, because the thing is, when you rotate within attending. But when you are a clinical elective student, you get assigned a team and a team of residents. So I essentially was assigned an attending who was not part of the teaching section. So there are two teams in the US hospitals, a teaching and a non-teaching team. The teaching team has an attending with residents, students, and the whole, shebang. A non-teaching team is the attending, the nurses, and maybe a bunch of other caseworker, social worker type people. But nobody who's studying is on his team. Because a teaching faculty and a non-teaching faculty are different. JPMC also has something similar, it's just nobody bothers to look at it closely enough, but we do. There are certain professors and consultants in JPMC who are not responsible for teaching anybody. They are just there because we're employed here as SRs or APs. So when it comes to I was assigned to a non-teaching team because the attending who my dad's friends, my uncle knew him, and he was a good family friend of his. So I was assigned with him, but he called me and he said, if you want to rotate with residents, I will arrange that for you. So I said, yes, I would like to rotate with residents because I've already been in a lot of non-teaching teams already. I want to do some teaching things. But I honestly wish I had just stuck with him because he was an amazing, definitely, I would definitely recommend somebody like that as a mentor. He was amazing, seriously. And so what happened was that every time he would speak to an attending, he'd be like, I have this rotator, you take up, because you always have to have a conversation before you do it. So then he introduced me to another attending who had a residency team. Now the reason I'm going on about this story is that I was then dependent on wherever this attending goes, I have to go with them. Hospitalists work a week and then they take the next week off. So when at ek hafta, I rotated with a particular person. The next week, he wasn't there. So then he said, I'm switching a shift with this person and this person. So the next day, I was with a completely different team. It was the same attending, but a different team because I switched kiya hai kisi se. So for me, it became a little jarring of an experience because I had to introduce myself to a new team every time. And mujhe thoda sa is tak, even someone with a high social battery life, I was getting exhausted by this point. It was September. I was on my 4th rotation. I had extended my trip. I had dealt with a lot of personal struggles in the past 2 months. I was completely stressed out. I didn't make a program list yet. My ERAS application was still halfway complete and personal statements are ready there, but I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was so tired by this rotation. I think the only reason I couldn't do it is that I was just so tired. When it was a very good rotation. I feel like, oh, मैंने पहले महीने में की होती, so and season would look very different. So I will very candidly, honestly say that I definitely got very exhausted by that. So I think Hamza got lucky that he got to play paddle and pickleball because this hospital had a very active pickleball culture. Everybody from the attendings, the residents, the janitor, to the security guard, sab, har koi ja raha hota tha every day. Even my uncle would go playing pickleball with all the doctors in the hospital because he was friendly with them. I was like, Allah, aap log kitna pickleball kar rahe? He's like, we go at 8 and then we just stay there till 12 a.m. and khelte rehte. And these are like old men in their 60s, theek hai? So definitely I wanted to join that and I was going to, but then I thought, yaar, main ki thaki hu, nahi hoega. And that definitely was a choice. I wouldn't have made that choice if I was at any other point in this cycle, but I was definitely very exhausted. So sometimes you will give up things, and I just want to let everybody know, okay, yes, it is very pressuring to be part of a USC, but learning to play pickleball. Definitely pick up pickleball, pick up paddleball, pick up tennis, racquetball, golf bhi khelna shuru kar do, main to kehti hu. Find a hobby, find an interest, but pickle and paddleball are getting very popular, very, very popular. So, and it's great for networking, it's true. So, yeah, but it's okay also if you lose an opportunity. And kabhi-kabhar lagega ki yaar ye kya ho gaya, but again, you are not a child, you are a 25, 26, late 20s, or sometimes 30-year-old person in a foreign country. Sometimes conserving energy is also important. I needed to have those years application submitted. मुझे वो हर हाल में submit करनी थी. There is a deadline that was very serious. It was looming. And the best part was meeting other fourth-year medical students. I made really good friends with them. I think I made the best friends with the other students who were applying. And उनके साथ बैठ के बहुत मजा आया. I still have them as my contact. I still talk to them. I still message them. I still text them Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and things like that. And so if you do get a chance to contact residents or they give you their number and whatnot, text them like this. Say, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Ethnicity or a particular religion, and you can be like, happy Nowruz, happy Chinese New Year, happy Lunar New Year. Do that. Do it. Follow them on Instagram. Build a network. But if you are following somebody on Instagram and they follow you, be sure that you do not upload anything that is super controversial. Some of you may know me from social media, and you might know that in the past year, I haven't posted anything of substance. There is a reason for that. It's not accidental. It is highly by design. And I would explain more on that, but I don't want this recorded. So we're going to move on to the next slide, because I think I've covered a good chunk on this one. So, how do you cure this? कहाँ जा रहे हैं? कौन जा रहा है? चलो, कहीं जा रहे हैं हम अमेरिका जा रहे हैं. So how to secure the USC? Okay, I know people talk about cold emailing, and I'm here to tell you, yes, some people have made it work. Can I be heard? Because I think it was sort of Hamza ki video pause me too. Can you all hear me? Testing. Feel like I'm just yapping. Okay, cold emailing. So I know about mystical myth into but we don't, it actually exists, and it does work. Okay, people response aa jata hai. It's hectic, so I just got irritated, and then I just went to my extremely large network of family and friends and said, please mere liye kuch kar de, mujhe emailing nahi ho rahi. And I'm being honest about this right now because I want to get that out there immediately. It does exist. I know people. I had friends who did cold emailing, so good for them. They gave up. I am weak. You may be stronger than I was, but I wasn't. University affiliation. So this is the part where clinical elective kar rahe hain, so try for university. And I can understand visas may becomes an issue. So I did pay a certain university.
Hi everyone, since Fatma's not here, or I think whenever she's back I'll stop, but since you all are here, so US clinical rotations, I know, like she obviously knows better and wo bata degi. But one thing that I think you all can do, and which I realized later on, a lot later, was basically when I was applying or when I was making my match list in a Residency Explorer pe gayi thi. It's a website where you can see all the programs that are out there. So I opened that website.
You can only do that once you have your AMC account.
Can't you make an account even before that? What about Frida?
You need AMC.
What's
Frida, I don't think you need it.
So basically just like find a list of programs so that, list of hoti hain available. Even if you open apna there is going to be a list of programs. Just find any list of programs, go on each program's website and see if they are offering a clinical rotation or not. Some programs, they also give you an audition rotation, which is basically a rotation jahan pe aap jaake unko dikha do. It's an audition that, this is how I perform, and on the basis of that they'll give you an interview or an invite.
Yeah,
right?
That's like that's once you've applied. Audition rotations.
The audition rotations, they happen after you've already applied. So it's always good to know that which programs are offering audition rotations, and also if you have enough money in your pocket. So achhi baat hai, pata rakho, apply to that program, and then just, when you've already applied, email that program that I want to come for the audition rotation, and then you can actually go there and, show how you work and show your work ethics, and maybe, you might end up matching there. So that's one thing. Or about the US clinical rotations, it's just like, honestly, a lot of it is luck, a lot of it is contacts. There are programs that are going to charge you a hefty amount of money and they'll give you a rotation, but none of us did that.
I did one.
He did one, a paid rotation where he paid around $500 to $600, but that was a clinic rotation. What I would suggest is that try to find rotations जो कि not university affiliated हो, but on programs में हो, the programs that already have a residency program affiliated or attached with it. Because then you won't just be rotating in that program, you might also get an invite from that program. ये तो होता ही है. Like if you have rotated in a program, there is an 80%, like an 80% chance that you will get an interview from that program only if you have done a good job. And even if you have done a decent job, I'm sure they did the interview. So try to find programs, the rotations, जिनके पास residency हो, and at the same time they're offering rotations. Even if those rotations are like paid rotations, चले जाओ वहाँ पे. That's
also, like. I just want to comment on the paid one that I did. तुम लोग ने देखा होगा. I'm pretty sure all of you are in Apna. If you're not, get on to Apna. Apna is very useful. It's a Facebook group, right? उसपे Dr. Beg, I don't know if a lot of you have probably heard of Dr. Beg. मैंने उनकी rotation की थी. And I think if you cannot get USC, just like naturally नहीं मिल रहा, your visa appointment's coming up or something like that, in that situation, I would recommend just paying for Dr. Beg's thing. The rotation is decent. I wouldn't say it's life-changing. It's a decent rotation, but it's one of the cheaper options. I think now he charges like $800 to do like a month or 2 weeks or something like that. I paid around 600 or something.
But I would still say कि like आप last option रखो.
Yeah, no,
paid rotation.
If let's say तुम्हारा next week या अगले महीने भी US interview आ रहा है B1 B2 का, and you need something, in that situation this is an option you have. It is one of the cheaper options because honestly rotations can cost anywhere from like $0 to like $4,000 to $5,000 for a month. That just depends on where you're looking, right? So this is like advice. Okay, अगर नहीं मिल रहा, Dr. Beg's thing is a good way to do it. You can, but then obviously you have to go for that rotation. He's not going to give you that money back. So
is Fatima back? What's the theme? Because it's not. Oh, she's here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. We're just filling in the gap.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you guys. I was like, chalo.
I didn't even realize. Sorry. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Chalo, अच्छी बात है. So yeah, I agree with Maheen, Hamza. We didn't pay for anything. I think it's क्यों फजूल खर्ची करें. So it's funny because I also did a rotation with a Dr. Beg in Florida, but he's not the same Dr. Beg. अच्छा, rotation securing का मैं कुछ बताने वाली थी. Yeah, अच्छा, so I did 2 rotations in academic hospitals, and they both had residency programs attached to them. But I did not get invited from any of them. एक ने तो straight up कह दिया था that we will not sponsor visa. आप US citizen होते, green card होता तो ठीक है. One of the residents was like, फिर भी apply कर दो. Maybe they make a exception. उन residency में बहुत अच्छी बातचीत हो गई थी. So like definitely they were very, very encouraging, but I didn't risk it, and that was on me. And then the second rotation was in Florida. The last one I did, and that last rotation, I didn't get an LOR from it because I only did 3 weeks and deadline almost आ गई थी. So I never asked by a deadline one, but I did put it on my CV as like a very important experience. वो किसी और वजह से था. I think that would be my mistake. I would say ask everybody for an LOR. You never know. You never know who is going to write it. You never know. Because I worked with so many different attendings. I thought, मैं किसके साथ क्या करूं, किससे मांगूं. So, but I think I should have just asked. And that would be a big regret, but at the same time, things worked out, and I think they worked out in a way that I'm grateful for. So, वही बात है, be shameless. Be as shameless, as selfish as possible. Look out for your own self. Just don't let anybody else know you're being selfish. Just do, भाई अपने आप को बचाओ in this entire process, I would say. And I'll talk about that a little more later. Agencies. So my letter, how did I get a visa? This is an important conversation, and I really wish it wasn't being recorded. So, I had to pay $250 to this agency of sorts, and they offered me a placement in Chicago at a particular university hospital, and they gave me a letter signed on that letterhead. It was perfectly legal. For legal reasons, I will mention it was perfectly legal, it was perfectly secure, and when I did this, it was March, and मैं उस वक्त जाना चाह रही थी with a friend to a completely different rotation. And so the thing is that I needed an emergency appointment, but I was denied emergency appointment at the time. So I had to wait until September, so I couldn't go to the March rotation. So at that point I was like, pata nahi, will I be able to get another letter? I spent $250, blah, blah, blah. So my friend said कि email them again and say कि मैं इस time पे नहीं travel कर सकती and मेरा visa appointment जो है वो delay हो गया है, तो आप लोग please हमें ना accommodate किसी और slot में कर दें. And they agreed actually. So here's the thing, like I said, if you don't ask, if you don't email, if you don't try it, you're not going to, you don't know what could happen. So yeah, मेरा कि I think I did ignore a few things too easily. तो कुछ चीजों के पीछे पड़ना does work. You might even get tired and think छोड़ो यार, but try it. हो सकता है चल जाए. So the thing is कि then they did issue me a new letter, and I took that to my visa appointment, and मुझे visa पे मिल गया था. And I was never rejected or denied or anything. So ये था. And yeah, my visa experience is very chill. Then again, I applied during Biden's time, तो थोड़े से फर्क था हमारे visa में. And so, but it was an agency, but they never asked to see the letter or anything. They just asked me, where are you going? How are you doing? Have a good trip, doctor. Bye. That's it. So it's a hit or miss. Agencies ka letter can work. Sometimes it can't. Kuch hote hain masle, but most of these agencies, they do use the name or an affiliation with a very major university hospital, and that is fine. That fits the bill. Some visa officers are very annoying, and they like, they go like, nahi, ye wala hospital to aisa hai, ye university to allowed hi nahi hai, blah, blah, blah. But some of them ignore it. So I guess it's also on luck. Visa is really just luck, man. It's darji ki marzi hoti hai. वो कुछ लोगों को वैसे ही reject कर देते हैं. अभी this one girl had her J1 rejected for no reason at all. This had weak ties to home country, and she's like, how can this be true? Jabki she had a permanent license in Pakistan. She had an entire family. She did residency here. So when she went again, they accepted it. So one of the experts here in Apna, he was like, this is probably just a visa officer being very new and inexperienced and didn't know what he was doing. So sometimes the embassy can make a mistake too, but it doesn't mean that you should give up. It doesn't mean that you are like banned for life or anything, so long as there was nothing big red flaggy. Like, you aren't a criminal in the country, so you'll get a visa eventually. They just want to know you'll come back. Acha, the next thing, community alumni network. This is the only process that has 100% success rate. आपके चाचा, मामा, फुप्पा, खाला, पड़ोसी, पुराने घर के पड़ोसी जो अब अमेरिका में बैठ गए हैं, they likely go to a masjid, they likely have a very strong Pakistani community. The Pakistani community in America is the strongest diaspora I have ever seen. I have never seen such a strong diaspora in anywhere else. It is the best way to get a rotation. किसी भी मस्जिद में चले जाओ, कहीं भी चले जाओ, although they always have some sort of Muslim doctor association, some group chat, some free clinic in a masjid, and they're always running it. So even if it's not like a major university hospital rotation, it's a free clinic rotation. Just do that. Do that for 4 weeks. हो सकता है one of the doctors writes you a letter there. हो सकता है they find you another rotation somewhere else. Like, I got 2 more rotations through this, but I had to drop them. Like, I had to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't come. I have a bit of family emergency. And it was the truth. I did have a family emergency. I had to immediately evacuate. Like, I literally had to run from one state to the other because of it. But one thing you should do is go to a masjid. It is the best way to do this. The best way. Go to a conference. मेरे वो timeline भी नहीं बन रहा था. I didn't have that much money for so many flight trips. I already took too many trips in the US when I was there out of sheer necessity. And I kind of hate traveling, I've realized now. But this is like 100% success rate. ये जो किसी से favor लेता है ना, या जो people giving a rotation out of some sort of obligation to their shared heritage or an old familial link और पुराना खानदानी ताल्लुक वाली रोटेशन को कभी भी आपको मना नहीं कर पाते. And that is one thing where cultural heritage and cultural ties really help you in the match process. There is a reason so many Pakistanis matched this year. There's just 53, 54 I think हम लोग almost 60 हैं because there's still a lot of SMC alumni unaccounted for. But over 50 तो सिर्फ हमारे college से. There are 50 from King Edward alone. So Dow has a couple of hundred themselves, ठीक है. The numbers are underreported. There's definitely more graduates out there that we don't know of. So इससे तो 250, 300, 400 तो हम ही हो गए. So it's look, naturally there is a reason why. It's because community and alumni networks definitely have the highest success rate. And ये है कि rotation दिलवाना. अब if you ask me, Hamza and Maheen, we can't get you this rotation because ये हमारे बस की बात नहीं है. अभी तक हम खुद नहीं पहुंचे अपने अस्पताल. मैंने अपना अस्पताल खुद नहीं देखा है, मुझे क्या पता. But somebody who's more like a chief resident, somebody who's an attending professor, assistant professor, या a friend of an assistant professor, वो आपको दिलवा सकता है rotation. And if you are applying, अच्छा अब ये है कि rotation कहाँ करनी चाहिए. Naturally, if you're applying internal medicine, do internal medicine rotations. But I know जैसे ही math season शुरू होगा बहुत सारे बोंगे सवाल आने लगते हैं. And the biggest bonga सवाल I thought was when people would say, I'm doing a rotation with gastroenterology, is that okay for an IEM applicant? Yes, it is. Because your gastroenterologist obviously did an IEM residency first. ये तो मुझे इतना ही stupid सवाल लगता है. And the reason is that when you go to the US, don't ask things like this, don't say stuff like this, don't let them know you're an idiot, is that anybody who's in medicine should know this. You should know that only after doing an internal medicine residency can you ever hope to become a gastroenterologist, cardiologist, nephrologist, any kind of ologist. Is only done by doing a basic 3-4 year internal medicine residency. ये rule है, ये दुनिया में rule है. And मैंने note किया है काफी students को, I can't speak about other universities or countries, but I know बहुत पाकिस्तानी बच्चे मेरे DM से जाते हैं who have often said they don't understand what this works like. Some people didn't even know what a fellowship is. Please, इतनी understanding about medicine, इतनी understanding about hospitals तो होनी चाहिए before you go to the US यार. And then एक और चीज डिस्कस होती है. Can we do a rotation with an MD or a DO? Is a DO a doctor? You have just offended every single DOPD out there now. Why would you ask this on a public forum? Khudaya, at least if you're doing it on a public forum, have the decency to have a Reddit account जहाँ पे तुम्हारा नाम नहीं है और कोई तुम्हें trace नहीं कर सकता with the VPN on. So at least have some anonymity if you want to ask stupid questions. Don't ask this stuff. Bhai, you have a chat GPT now. Ask that. Ask the AI. पानी ज़ाया होगा ठीक है, but at least इज्जत तो रह जाएगी थोड़ी सी. Please research things before you go there. And अच्छा, I realized I was offered way too many USC more than I could do. या अल्लाह, मैंने इतने जमा कैसे कर लिए थे? मैं खुद सोच रही हूँ. So damn, I didn't even know I had that many options. Insane. A story of many privileges, I suppose. So there was this one rotation. He said, I work with a palliative care doctor and we will rotate with different hospitals, different nursing homes. So if you don't know anything about palliative care, because it virtually doesn't exist in JPMC or NICU, like we just don't do palliative care that way. But never are you allowed to show up to the US hospital and say, ये हमारे मुल्क में नहीं. Please don't say that. Say something like, we don't have rigorous, rigid systems to provide this level of care. However, end of life care is an understood concept in our medical care, implemented the same way due to a variety of cultural and religious factors. Just make religion and culture the whole problem. Just dump it on that. Because if you go up to somebody and say, it's like, ये हमारे मुल्क में नहीं होता, या ये हम करते ही, भाई तो nobody wants to hear that. They're going to be like, तुम यहाँ आए क्यों? तुम्हें आता क्या है? तुम हो कौन? तुम्हें कुछ आता ही नहीं, हम इस बंदे को क्यों रखें? Don't do that. Don't do that. So this one patient came and she came from a very particular, her family was in a part of the world which is infested with a lot of like conflict, with a lot of, instability and political turmoil. So she came and she her appointment was delayed or like canceled, something like that. And the PA told her, okay, it's canceled or whatnot. And she had a crash out, like she started screaming, she started angry, she started like ranting, and she talked about how her family is gone and how everything's blown to smithereens and her house is gone and blah, blah. And she's like, I didn't know what to say. And so then I told the PA, we were just having this conversation separately. I didn't know the patient's name. I don't know her details. I don't know anything about her. I just know that a certain patient showed up to the clinic that day. And it was before I got there because I always came late. I had told them I would come late. So I told her that, for this particular demographic, many experts in psychology and trauma psychologists, they say that they've never seen a time of peace in certain people. They've never seen a peacetime in their lifetime. So PTSD doesn't exist because it's a recurring theme for them. They're constantly exposed to trauma. And so maybe a skipped appointment was just another exposure to trauma, so we can't even diagnose her with PTSD yet. And she said, you know what, I never thought of it like that. I never thought that, such a patient could be dealing with something like this. And that's so interesting. And it was just a discussion on patient care. But, things like this, you have knowledge from your home country. You have knowledge that you can bring to the table. You have things that you can talk about, and you should talk about them because you want them to know that I too am somebody who knows things. At the same time, try not to be a know-it-all. There's a fine line. Like this one guy, I think he really needed a social workshop on how to behave because he was just always being weird. And we were in the clinic and this pharma rep came. So अब pharma का मुफ्ता is permanent चाहे कोई भी मुल्क हो. And हमें खाना ही इसलिए मिलता था कुछ दिनों पे because pharma वाले ले आते थे. So वो लाए कुछ पिज़्ज़ा विज़्ज़ा या क्या, तो हमने तो वेजिटेरियन वाला खा लिया and the cheese one. So उसपे he was like, okay, this is a drug and we've done this trial. अब me and another rotator, हम दोनों ने clinical trials में काम किया हुआ था. I did one in AKU, he did one in the US. So because of that, we had a few other questions and हमें ना उसकी बात थोड़ी different तरीके से मिला. ये तीसरा बंदा जो था अल्लाह माफी, he just sat and पहले तो उसने पूरी pamphlet पढ़ी and then he made like a very judgy sort of face and he was like, so what about the what about the adverse effects, and here it says the 3% people face severe adverse effects, so what about those? And then the pharma guy is like, oh, that's a great question, and he's happy to answer it. Pharma reps want to answer questions. And we started like, okay, so, but then we had this, and the confidence interval for this. But no, but see, it did have the adverse effect, so it was there. अब वो पीछे पड़ गया कि इसमें 2% लोगों को adverse effect थे in that very, in that very male-centric ego where, you just get stuck to a certain point and आपको सिर्फ अपनी बात करनी होती है, and I was a seer, and it was in a room where हम तीन बैठे हुए थे, the PA was there, the medical assistant was there, and everybody was just like, and I was just like, इतना over क्यों हो रहे हो भाई, सही है, चुप हो जाओ, उसने कह तो दिया कि हाँ है, you can read it, let him get to the next point, बाकी बातें कर लो, like, you don't have to, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I was talking too much, but I really wanted to describe what it looks like to not be in a US. You don't do this type thing. Anyway, you can go on to the next one. I think I'm almost done. It's just the interview part that's left, I think. Right. So I think I've already done all this game, proactive वगैरह, build professional relationships. ये सारी चीजें cover हो चुकी हैं. And you can go on to the next one. अच्छा. Oh, I have to talk about red flags. I totally forgot about that. Okay. So red flags. Let's just talk about what red flags are because there's a bit of a confusion on what they are. Red flags are things like, देखो, Hamza talked about his score. That's not a red flag. Okay. It makes things harder, but it's not a red flag. A red flag is something that is a straight up reason for somebody to completely screen your application and reject you. You are never reaching the TT's desk at all. Okay. The ERA's system will screen you out. So things like that are failures. An attempt can definitely get you screened out. Okay. A gap in a CV. CV में gap 6 महीने 4 महीने नहीं होता. CV में gap होता है 8 साल, 5 साल, 4 साल आप घर पे बैठे हुए थे, आप कुछ नहीं कर रहे थे, आप कहाँ थे? Even you can say कि ठीक है, for these 6 months I was doing intense medical board prep, which means कि मैं step 2 की पढ़ाई कर रहा था. But a gap in a CV is like, a lot of people who are older graduates who maybe went, took a career gap, took a career break to look after the family, had a personal injury, had a personal illness, a family illness. उसमें 4-5 साल उनके गुजर गए. That's a gap. That's a red flag. क्या आप 5 साल कर क्या रहे थे? क्यों नहीं थे? That raises questions. Low scores, again, low score तो तब होना अगर आपका बिल्कुल passing से 1 number ऊपर score है. I still don't think low scores are red flags. I think low scores can be strategized with. Yeah, they do screen you out, but like it depends. Some programs clearly communicate on a website के 220 से नीचे अगर score है तो हमारे पास ये application आएगी नहीं, which means electronically the PD never sees it. कुछ programs have no cutoff, they get all the applications, but फिर उसके बाद एक scrubbing process होता है जिसके अंदर program coordinator, PDs और chief residents उठा के लोगों को screen कर रहे होते हैं and inactivate कर रहे होते हैं. It's different. So yes, 0 USC is a red flag. So what that means is that if you have a score less than 220, that you had no shot, like you had no chance कि तुम किसी से internally बात करवा के contact के जरिए वो application खुलवा लो, वो पहुंची नहीं program तक, like they screen you out completely. ठीक है? So एक ये भी तरीका होता है. Medical failures. If you are a year back, then yes, it's a red flag. If you have one retake in some one random OSCE in third year because you were sick, nobody cares about that. So, ये है कि low score do screen, but I think this is a larger conversation. I think Hamza can talk about it better. I think he did talk about it. Yes, you do get screened out by some programs, but you can't be eliminated from the running entirely. But a failure can eliminate you from the running entirely. No USC. Some people apply without clinical experience. It's common. It's not unheard of. However, there are certain programs that interview people without USC, and you have to be very smart to only apply to those programs. And then, like, there's a longer way how people do it. I've never personally done it. I think जब आप करो तो सही से करो. But no USC के लिए I never applied to more than 40 programs or the basic 30 programs से ज़्यादा कभी apply मत करना because इतना तक क्यों attempt करते हो. I would say that. ये है कि when you have failed and the next exam you took, like for example you failed step 1 but then you pass the next time and then step 2 का score आपका है 275. That negates your failure attempt. Program directors will be like, ठीक है. They will be like, सही है, whatever struggle you went through with the step 1 attempt, you have fixed it, you overcame it, and we can see that. हमें दिख रहा है कि आपने improve किया है. You can even say something else like, after that I went on to do this, and whatnot, and मैंने ये भी achieve किया और मैंने ये वाली application भी की, and actually no, we have somebody who matched this year who has a step 1 attempt and a very low step 2 score. Yes, she matched. So I think maybe I'll ask her if she wants to talk about her story a little bit, and maybe I'll try sending it somewhere. I'll ask her. She's a friend of mine, तो मैं उससे पूछूंगी अगर वो ये करना चाहे. But she did have a low step 2 score. उसकी सिर्फ ये एक advantage थी कि she had a US passport. So always remember, you can have any kind of red flag and that negates everything. So career switch. अच्छा. Once I did remember program director be like, what did she say? Somebody who switched from a family medicine residency, she left it in 6 months and then applied to psychiatry in the following match cycle. So they said that this is a red flag to us from this application if the personal statement or the meaningful part of the ERA CV does not explain what happened in that 6 months. Why did you leave a certain residency program and now apply to a completely different specialty? Then it's a red flag. Then it shows lack of commitment and it shows attrition. Nobody wants attrition in a residency. Okay? So if you drop a residency, you have to have a good reason why. Year of graduation more than 5. Now I know people say old graduate 3 साल पे हो जाता है. That's not true. Old graduate is somebody who is been out of med school too long and you require additional CV building. I'll give you an example. There is a person who matched from SMC this year and her year of graduation is my date of birth. So that's a year of graduation that is high. Okay. Imagine my age. I'm 27 years old. So she graduated when I was born. That's a huge deal. So that is a red flag. But she had a master's degree. She'd worked for 15 years, and I think she also has a PhD or something. So she went through a different route, and she had a non-traditional path to residency. Okay. Okay. Chalo. Yeah, I'm done. I was talking really fast, but I'm like most of them. Interviews is something we will discuss sometime else. Maheen ko bol dega. Because some of you will not get interviews in the main math cycle, so this is a conversation for a later day.
Hi, hello everyone. So, I'm Maheen. I've talked earlier as well, thoda bahut beech mein I was like talking. What was my thing? Personal statement, yeah. Programmless signaling personal statement. So, personal statement is basically one of the most important parts of the application. Aapka personal statement is basically a reflection of who you are as a person, what's important to you, what your personality is. Some people, they're serious, unki zindagi mein like kuch struggles hoti hain that they talk about in their personal statements, but make sure that your personal statement is not just struggles, right? You're not asking someone to pity you, or aap unse ye nahi keh rahe ho ki yaar, I have like ye sob story, or listen to my sob story, or like read my sob story. No. It should be basically like, it should include everything you are as a person, or what's important to you. Like something as simple as like my friend, she got matched recently. And she talked about Candy Crush in her personal statement because like itna Candy Crush khelti hai, she's addicted to it to the point that I think she's one of the top players in the world. And she talked about it in her personal statement. So you don't have to be like, a top player or like, excellent at something for you to talk about that thing. But agar wo aapke liye bahut important hai or you think you resonate with it, just talk about it, and it might like click with the other person as well. So yeah. So I do have screenshots of some of the like my personal statement, the first paragraph, like the opening paragraph. I'll share that with you. I have a couple more just to tell you that there are different writing styles and no writing style is perfect or it's right. तो देखो कोई भी personal statement का style perfect नहीं होता, ठीक है? I think they can see it. I think. Can you all see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the opening paragraph of my personal statement. मैं read कर देती हूँ. The word Shama means flame, and for a brief moment she was precisely that. Shama was the name of the baby my mother delivered. She died of neonatal hypoxia. The light went out. Along the dry river valley on the outskirts of a small town in rural Pakistan sat a small cabin no larger than a coffin where my mother, the only female doctor in the area, would deliver babies under the glow of car headlights. The idea that life and death can coexist and that one can defeat the other dawned on me much earlier in life. It was 2005. In that same cabin, 2 people died of sepsis, 4 of pneumonia, and 20 snake venom while I played outside, rolling broken bicycle tires and chasing bats. The scarcity of basic human resources in the area and the debilitating nature of these diseases gave me my first few insights into life. Fevers turn to funerals when systems fail. Poverty is often a death sentence. Internal medicine stands at the dichotomy between life and death, negotiating the latter over the former. It is also what ignited my interest in the subject. Now the thing is, with this opening paragraph, it might seem intense. I sent it to so many people when I wrote it the first time. I remember sending it to multiple residents that I knew of. People, even my sister, she is a resident in the US right now. Usko bheja. Some people resonated with it, some did not like it. They were like, "Oh, it reads like a book. It reads like a novel. कि तुम कोई कहानी सुना रही हो." Personal statement shouldn't be like that. There was an attending who told me to change it because he was like, "Okay, this is very intense, right? It has very strong words in it." And there were some people who were like, "This is excellent. We wouldn't want to change it. There's nothing, koi suggestion ही नहीं है." But because I believe truly in it to the point that even though there were people telling me to change it, I did not. ठीक है? So yes, sometimes लोग आपको advice देंगे. You're going to write a piece of writing and you might like it, and there are going to be 10 people who will tell you to change it, then change it because there are 10 people telling you to change it. But if there are 2 people telling you to change it, but the other 8 are like, "This is a good writing, stick to it. This is who you are as a person, stick to it." People who truly know me, who know my story, they knew how authentic this was and they were like, "Stick to it. Don't change anything about it." Okay? So I did not. Your personal statement, it does not have to be big, flashy words. It could be something very simple. मेरे पास एक और है. This is my friend's first opening paragraph. I am on level 18215 of Candy Crush, which means I have spent an embarrassing amount of time staring at colorful puzzles and figuring out how to solve them. Level after level, I have to recognize patterns, anticipate outcomes, and map out the most efficient series of moves. I often joke about how Candy Crush taught me how to think like a neurologist long before I wanted to be one, training me to see the world as a series of clues, signals, and connections that needed to be. Now this is such a simple opening paragraph, but this person got an interview from Duke. So I'm telling you, your personal statement, it does not have to be big flashy words. As long as it's something that you truly believe in, आपसे resonate करता है, आप उसको अपने उसमें डालो. There is another picture as well that I do have. No, so yeah. So basically एक दो चीजें चाहिए, ठीक है. Thirdly, जो चीज है, so make sure it's okay, it's fine. Right. So make sure your personal statement is only 1 page long, because no one who's seeing your CV, going through your application has time to read the entire thing. They might not even get to the second page. वो flip भी नहीं करेंगे. They'll only read the first page of your personal statement. Make sure it's like उसमें 4 paragraphs आते हैं, 5 paragraphs आते हैं. Squeeze all of that information and make it into 1 page only. ठीक है. Make sure एक लाइन भी सेकंड पेज पे ना जाए. ठीक है. एक तो ये इम्पोर्टेंट चीज थी. Thirdly, the most important thing is that your personal statement should be, for example, my opening paragraph. For some people, it felt like they were like, I don't know if you're talking about pediatrics, or I don't know if you're applying for gynecology because your mother was delivering babies. We can't tell that तुम internal medicine में apply कर रही हो because of your opening paragraph. But मेरा reason for that being my opening paragraph was different. But the rest of my personal statement, क्योंकि वो मैंने रेस्ट शेयर नहीं किया अभी, लेकिन बेसिकली जो रेस्ट है ना वो पीस कर रहा है फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ से, एंड इट इज अबाउट इंटरनल मेडिसिन. So make sure whichever specialty you are applying in, your personal statement is in line with that. ऐसा ना लग रहा हो कि you are applying in neurology and you're talking about completely different thing. लोग करते हैं कि वो multiple specialties में apply कर रहे होते हैं. They are applying for like family medicine, internal medicine, and they write multiple personal statements. या एक लिख के change कर लेते हैं, but do it in a way कि वो लगे, like it feels real. ठीक है. And there is no right or wrong personal statement. The way to go about it is like right now, so अभी हमारा मई चल रहा है ना, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर में you apply for the match. So I think start writing your personal statement by July, like मतलब आप शुरू कर दें, because it's gonna take multiple attempts to come up with the perfect personal statement. Because personal statement CD, ये चीज़ बहुत important होती है. That's your entire application. That's what your application is based on. They're not going to talk to you. They're going to see that, and on the basis of that, they will select you or reject you as a candidate. So आप अपना लिखना शुरू कर दो. जुलाई में एक ड्राफ्ट होगा. You're going to see make hundreds and thousands of changes. Send it to people that you trust. Your people that have like good communication skills, not communication, writing skills, and not just that, फिर उसके पास ChatGPT. Like a lot of people ask this question. हमारा भी question होता था, हम ChatGPT use कर सकते हैं. Yes, you can use AI, but use it smartly. Don't copy sentences. आपने एक चीज डाली, उसने आपको बता दी, आपने उसको copy paste कर दिया. Don't do that. Come up with your own original sentence, send it to ChatGPT and ask it, how can I frame it, like मैं इसको बेहतर तरीके से कैसे frame कर सकता हूँ. You can take that sentence and then maybe change it a little bit. ठीक है. इस तरह से आप कर सकते हो. ChatGPT is a very good tool only if you use it smartly. Don't copy paste anything. फिर वो बहुत generic हो जाता है, because let's say like लाखों के हिसाब से लोग apply कर रहे हैं, so I'm sure 80% of them are going to use ChatGPT, right? So like there's a very good chance कि आपका personal statement बाकियों जैसा हो. So like use it, but use it smartly. और ना use करना is stupid. Like मैं अगर कोई मुझसे कह रहा, oh because I want to be like so original, I'm not going to use it. That's stupidity. That's not smartness. Use it. एक tool आपको available है, it's out there, it's easy, use करो. Grammarly is a very good tool as well. हमने free subscription लिया हुआ था. हम लोग Grammarly पे जाते थे, चीजें डालते थे, ChatGPT पे डालते थे. Even for ERAS CV, for our personal statement, we used it, but we used it smartly. हमने copy paste कुछ नहीं किया. But yes, we picked out smart words, अच्छे words, कैसे वो होगा. And then my sister is big on writing, right? तो मैं उससे वो करती थी कि यार, what do you think? Should I phrase it like this? या कुछ और तरीके से phrase करूँ? So And no personal statement is a good personal statement. It's just you, like कोई सही नहीं होता, कोई गलत नहीं होता. People are gonna be like, इसका गंदा है, इसका अच्छा है. No, किसी का गंदा है because you can't like connect with them through their personal statement. ठीक है? तो बहुत सारे लोग opinions देंगे, बहुत चीजें होती हैं, but like just like you know filter out that noise. आप जो लिखना चाहते हो उसके बारे में बात करो, अपनी स्पेशलिटी के बारे में बात करो, टॉक अबाउट इंटरनल मेडिसिन, टॉक अबाउट लाइक वन गुड एक्सपीरियंस, मे बी रोटेशन में टू लर्न समथिंग स्पेसिफिक, टॉक अबाउट दैट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लाइक मेरे पर्सनल स्टेटमेंट में देयर इज अ केस ऑफ सिकल सेल क्राइसिस वेयर लाइक यू नो हम लोग there was a case of sickle cell crisis. It was a whole thing, but I wrote a paragraph about it. ठीक है, because it was important to me. तो एक paragraph उसका डाल दो, एक paragraph अपनी किसी achievement का डाल दो, something that you're proud of. तो उसको बहुत एक well compacted, like you know, it should have everything, and it should also like reflect who you are as a person, what your beliefs are, what your backstory is, what the current story is, what you want to do going forward, and all of that should come in one page. So it's a lot of work, just making sure the 8-page video, and in the end you talk about the program. Why do I want to come to this program? So first paragraph, who you are, what your backstory is, what your current story is maybe. Second paragraph, why this specialty, you know, what you have done in this specialty, why you would be a good fit in the last, and like the closing paragraph, why you'd be a good fit for the program. So इस तरह करके एक अच्छा सा perfect सा statement बना लो and just send it to like the people who've matched this year. They'll most likely give you good suggestions कि अच्छा ये change कर लो, वो change कर लो, and yeah, and like honestly ask for help. 10 लोग help नहीं करेंगे तो 2 कर लेंगे. So बहुत rejection मिलती है during the match cycle, but it's all worth it in the end. ठीक है, ये हो गया personal statement. Second thing was program list and like signaling and blah 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 blah. About that, देखो, right now we only have limited time कि we can't tell you everything that we went through the last year. It was a lot of information and so much happened कि वो मैं नहीं बता सकती, ठीक है? But what I'm going to share is basically some of the things I feel like I should have known earlier before I applied. One mistake that I made was, I'm going to start from a mistake. One mistake that I made was I applied in 150 programs. When I shouldn't have, there was no need. I wasted all that money. I got 7 interviews. It's like, if you come to think of it, with the remaining 143 programs से पैसे मैंने जाया किए, ठीक है? So you have to be very strategic about it. I didn't want to apply in a lot of programs, but my sister, because my sister, she is currently a second-year resident, so when she applied, उसके time पे ये था कि, you know, there was no signaling का concept. ठीक है, इतना नहीं था, new concept आया था signaling का, so they were like just broadly applying to as many programs as possible. And she was also an old graduate when she applied, so she applied in I think 300 plus programs or something. Because in her time, like that was important. But now, because there are signals, you don't have to apply to 150 programs or 200 programs. At that point, you're just wasting your money. ठीक है, and I only did that because I did not, मुझे याद है मैथ्स जिस रात को हम लोगों ने अप्लाई करना था and that was the last date. I applied in 100 programs. I was at a friend's house. I came back to my place. I talked to my sister on call and she was like, apply to more programs. And I ended up applying to 50 more programs. जो मैंने उसी वक्त निकाले because मेरी list बनी हुई थी. I didn't want to use those programs or apply to those programs, but I ended up applying to those programs and wasting another $1,000 that maybe I should have saved. और जो मेरी in-person interviews आए थे मैं वो attend कर लेती. जो मेरे in-person interviews आए थे वो तो मैंने attend ही नहीं किए because by then I had kind of run out of all the money that I had. तो बहुत smartly apply करो. Applying का ये होता है when you're making your residency program list, start making it as early as possible. It's a very strenuous, hard process. बहुत time लगता है, very time consuming. There's like 600, 700 internal medicine programs. I'm talking for internal medicine only because I like family medicine. I think I applied to like 7 programs only because my sister was after me. I asked ChatGPT to make a personal statement of family medicine the night of the application, like the last date. So it's chaos. So no family medicine. I can only talk for internal medicine. But basically, there were 600 something programs, and how I filtered those programs out was on the basis of where I rotated and where I spent the most time when I was in the US and which places are basically IMG friendly. So usme mere paas, because I was in near Chicago for around 4 months. So that's like northeast central में पड़ता है. I chose that. वो geographical preference आ गई. Second was I was only in southeast central, जो Mississippi वाला region है, for 2 weeks. I chose that region, 3 weeks hardly. I chose that region. And then Mid-Atlantic, because everyone applies to Mid-Atlantic, which I think was my biggest mistake, because I did not have any connection as per se to Mid-Atlantic. Like I had like distant family, but not, like I didn't go there personally. I did not have any connection to the place as per se, and I did not do any rotations there. So वहाँ नहीं apply करना चाहिए था, but मैंने कर लिया था. I took 3 regions. Then I started like going through all the programs that were there in those 3 regions specifically. और उसकी list बनाते हो, आप Excel sheet बनाते हो, आपने, you enter the program, you write the program name, the state that the program is located in, its AMC ID, पूरी proper list होती है that, closer to the math cycle, I think more people would be open to sharing their list. My list is really bad because I'm not a very organized person, so that's why I'm not sharing it, because it's embarrassing. So AMC ID होती है, फिर उसमें you write the address, you write the name of the program. I would also write the email address of the program director.
Just on this note, I just want to say, learn how to use Excel or Access on Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, they're better.
That's the only way you can manage this much information.
अच्छा, फिर उसके बाद like you can also enter details about the program that मुझे J1 चाहिए था, मैंने step 3 नहीं दिया हुआ था. Okay, so J1 वाले program को मैंने उठा लिया. H1 मैंने go and see के is this program IMG friendly or not? उसमें stats given है. Whether यहाँ पे programs, if they have like a crazy match rate for IMGs, it's 98%, right? You would want to apply to program, but you also have to visit their website. When you go on their website, वहाँ पे link होगी. You will go to their website and you'll see 8% people, they are no Pakistanis. They are Indians. They are other nationalities. Should I be applying to that program? No, you shouldn't. Look for Pakistanis in that program. Presidents or the year before that. If that program is consistently taking Pakistanis, apply to that program. अगर नहीं कर रहा है, मत लो, even if the IMG rate of that program is 99%. Most likely they're not going to take you.
I have something to say about the IMG friendliness in my personal experience, because we had very different application experiences because of my score, right? IMG friendly is a double-edged sword, right? The program that's IMG friendly is going to take a lot of IMGs, a lot of DCs. But if you don't have a really high score, that's not good.
Because IMGs generally have good scores.
Yeah. So many personally, I was looking at like non-IMG friendly places. Obviously not places that just don't take IMGs, but that's something to keep in mind. If your score is like less than like 230, that's just something you should keep in mind. 235 or something like that.
Then, acha, ab IMG friendly ho gaya, then one other thing is that what else was there? So you go to the program's website and you also check what they are looking for in applicants this year. Her year, what they want changes, right? So you go and you check what they want this year. Some might say that, oh, we prefer candidates who have taken step 3. So remove that program from your list. That program, even if there are like so many Pakistanis there, that program has Pakistanis, but they are taking, or they prefer people who've taken step 3, remove that program. Because there's not, that the chances of you matching there in that program, वो बहुत कम हो जाते हैं. Most likely they're not even going to see your application. ठीक है? So इस तरह करते you filter out a lot, because there are 650 programs and I'm sure not a lot of us have that much money. So it's just smart to like start filtering out programs शुरू से ही. ठीक है? Also apply to programs that are near to where you rotated. For example, out of the 7 interviews that I got majority of them from Southeast Central, and I was only there for 3 weeks. ठीक है, तो Southeast Central में मैंने 3 हफ्ते गुजारती हूँ और सारे मेरे interviews उस मेरे program के इर्द गिर्द से मुझे आ रहे हैं. Even though I had no connections to any of those programs. What does that say? That means कि मेरा सिर्फ connection, it wasn't just कि, connection or geographical preference to that place was important. Number 1, that, and number 2, what's number 2? It just means that आपका geographical preference to that area, or you went to that area, or you knew someone in that area, and also because that area is like IMG.
And then if you're writing anything, because like I showed you guys earlier, geographical preference, you have to kind of give a reason why that's your geographical preference. Now, if you don't have any like provable ties to that area, so it's just gonna sound like BS. Because almost like you're just kind of saying it. So if you have like something that to back it up on your CV, that's good for you.
So basically, after doing all of that, you'll be able to shortlist a list of programs. Okay, these are the programs that I'm applying in. Okay, and that list is probably going to be 150 programs, 200 programs, maybe 80 programs. Does not matter. Just maybe you can apply, or it's like financially convenient or feasible for you or your family apply to that many programs. I know people who only apply to 60 programs and they matched. I know people who applied to 300 plus programs and they did not match. So it does not matter. What matters is that you apply smartly. You filter out the programs that you think that you don't have a good shot in. Programs even on residency explorer ये भी बताया होता है कि this program की normal जो score range है वो इतनी है कि मतलब जो residents यहाँ पे आते हैं उनके average score ही इतना होता है. For example, my score was 258. So what that meant was that I wasn't getting filtered out from any, and I was a recent graduate. I had a 258 score. मैं किसी भी program से filter out नहीं हो रही थी. So I had all the programs that I could apply in. So it was very hard for me to like choose कि okay इसमें apply करना इसमें नहीं करना. So आप कैसे करते हो? How to deal with that is that look at the the scores जो वो program उसको ले रहा है. For example, I applied in this one program that I did not get an interview from. उनका score था 250 plus something, where like it was the average score of the residents there. Even though I had a 258, but still they didn't take me, right? So it's just better to apply to programs जिन पे आपकी profile बेहतर हो. For example, if a program is taking 240 plus का score and your score is 258, then that means that you have a better shot with that program as compared to a program जहाँ का already average score is very high, right? So just be smart about it. खैर, anyway, आपने program list बनाई. Program list बनाने के बाद how the signaling works is that you have a total of 15 signals in IM. I think in FM you have 7.
Oh, yeah, yes.
7. I don't know. Fatima will know better. So, I don't know. IM you have a total of 15 signals. 5.
I think Peds is 8. Neuro is also 8. I think Neuro and Peds are 8. Family medicine is 5. There are no gold and silver tiers, but IM has gold and silver tiers.
Just like spot of context, like a signal is like, it's something that will pop up with your application when it goes to the program that, this person is more interested in coming to you. And then there's tiers to that, gold and silver. 13 gold hote hain and 12 silver hote hain.
So basically you have a total of 15 signals and in IM. In IMA you have 3 gold signals and then you have like 12 silver signals. When you gold signal a program, what you are saying is that this is my top choice and this is where I want to be, or this is where I want to come. Okay? But that is the most important part is that you choose your signals wisely. If you have a 270 plus score and you have 0 researches, please do not like signal view or signal like a big program just because you have a good score, because the rest of your application is not good, right? It's not as good as the other applicants going there. So apne signals बहुत wisely, even like wisely choose karo, okay? I got all my interviews from the places I signaled. So but imagine I signaled 15 programs and I got all the interviews from the places I signaled. So the remaining 43 programs that I applied to, वो सारे पैसे मेरे waste गए हैं. So that actually that says something. That says that please do not apply to more than 100 programs. Like 100 is too much to be on the safe side, but do not apply to more than 100 programs, especially because there are signals in place. एक program के पास 4,000 applications आ रही हैं on average. That program is only going to see the applicants जिन्होंने signal किया है.
So the signaling information is also present on residency.
Yeah.
तो वो पता चल जाता है किसका match हुआ था, कितने applicants signaled and not, वो पता चल जाता है.
But like for example, on average, one program is getting 4,000 applications, right? And वो 4,000 applications को go through नहीं करेंगे. They don't have the time, right? They are like, okay, we are only going to go through like, 200 applications, right? We are going to go through, they have a cap, like हर program का एक set cap होता है. हम सिर्फ इतनों को देखेंगे because we don't have the time. तो वो 200 कौन से होंगे? Obviously those 200 are going to be the people who signal them. it's very rare that programs go to other applicants as well because they have good profiles. होता है, rarely कर लेते हैं because for example, if a program is like, oh, इस बंदे का score भी अच्छा है, इसकी और चीजें भी अच्छी हैं, you know, it seems like a good applicant, let's give them an interview. But once again, signal, from what I've seen is like signals बहुत important होते हैं. Don't waste your signals on big programs. Like, don't waste your signals on big programs. मतलब होता है, like people said this to me, you know, you should have like signals आप इस तरह divide करते हो. कुछ programs होते हैं where you think that you will definitely get an interview. Then there are programs where you think that I might get an interview, and then there are some programs that you are like, oh, I wish I could get an interview from them. So if you have 15 signals, you divide 5, 5, 5. But I think it's kind of stupid because like, if you wish you could get an interview from that program, then you shouldn't technically signal them in the first place. Because मैंने इस तरह किया था, the way that I'm telling, and it didn't work out. The places that I wish or I had hoped that I would get an interview from, I didn't get interviews from them. So it was kind of stupid. And New York में मैंने बहुत सारे programs को signal कर दिया था, even though I had no rotation in New York. So it did not make sense. मैंने Mid-Atlantic वाले signals waste किए थे अपने. So the only signals that worked out for me were the signals जहाँ पे मैंने rotations की जिन regions में, कि मैंने North East Central में rotation की एक hospital में, I got interviews from that region. The South East Central, I did one rotation in one hospital, I got interviews from that region. So अपने signals strategically decide करना, like be smart about it, but सुन के ये नहीं देखना, because when it's a lot of work, because I remember कि, you know, when you are applying, there are going to be people around you who have excellent CVs. And just because you have a good score does not mean that your CV is excellent. ठीक है? There are so many other components to it. So on the basis of your score or on the basis of your research solely, do not finalize your signals. Also see कि उस program में generally जो students आ रहे हैं उनकी CVs कैसी हैं relatively. So I think that's about it. That's मैंने बहुत बोल दिया about signaling, match list. I can't like, there's obviously like a lot of information, but we have a limit. This session should, yeah, it's going to end at
on this program list part. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. I personally believe geographical preference is very important because, again, all the advice we got last year was, oh no, just keep it broad. I don't think that's the case anymore. I do, because like I said, like looking at Maheen's interviews, geographical preference and signaling, दोनों चीजें align हुई थी तो interview आया. Outside of that नहीं आया. Like to my
Also, someone asked that how do you suggest us to distribute our 10 experiences on Ida CV? Like out of the 10 experiences, इस तरह कर लो 40% of your experiences should be medicine related or ऐसी activities थी, you know, like public speaking or something like that. So इस तरह करके अपनी CV में ना बहुत एक इवन सा मतलब हो, ऐसा बहुत well rounded आपकी personality लगनी चाहिए. It shouldn't just be medicine के, oh, I did 8 rotations, so I'm going to talk about all 8 rotations in my CV. Don't do that.
Also, they love extracurricular stuff. You know, like they will love, because like the thing is, they're looking for stuff to talk about once you get an interview. They're looking for stuff to talk about, but they need stuff in your CV that they can use to gauge who you are as a person. So don't just be like, oh, this doesn't seem like interesting to me because it's not medicine related. If it's something that actually meant something to you and it fits within the criteria that's there for the experiences, just put it there. It's good to do.
That's that. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
I don't know.
I think we're supposed to do questions now.
Okay, Hamza's net got disconnected, so I'll be taking over. We can move to Q&A if you guys want to. I think you guys have answered a lot of the questions on the way, but the rest of it you guys can answer. And thank you, Dr. Maheen. That was a very insightful session, and you guys can move to the Q&A. Thank you.
You're welcome.